If you're going to New York Comic Con this year, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Mel, and I'm a designer. I normally make videos about design, but I also am a 90s child, and I love pop culture, so I go to a lot of pop culture events, and I like to watch a lot of nerd stuff. We're assuming that you know what Comic Con is if you clicked on this video, but if you don't, New York Comic Con is a huge pop culture convention. It occurs every October. I believe it's the first full weekend of October, the way that it's planned. The dates change just because of the way the calendar is, but it's Thursday through Sunday. And celebrities go, businesses go, there's things that you can buy, there's panels, there's Funko Pops. Artists go. And it's just a big celebration of pop culture. But I thought it would be fun to go a little bit away from the design and talk about pop culture stuff that I like. This is a things you need to know guide if you're going to New York Comic Con. Depending on the kind of person you are, you can just wake up and go, or you can take this very seriously and prepare. I recommend preparing, especially if you don't live in the New York City area, because it's just going to make your con experience a lot more fun, especially with how popular New York Comic Con has become.
Look at the panels ahead of time. All that stuff is available online. Download the app and get on it. It's got literally everything you could ever need to prepare for this, but something that's in the app is the times and locations of all of the panels. Take the time, look at every single one, and figure out, which ones are must-sees. Figure out which ones are like, well, I would really like to see this. Figure out which ones are like, well, I'd kind of like to see this. And then weigh that, compare it to what you want to do on the show floor, what you want to do in the gaming center, artist alley, like all that other stuff. And, try to get a pretty good guide of what your day-to-day is going to look like just in terms of panels. And then that'll give you a sense of how much time you have left over for everything else you want to do.
A point that I had about making a schedule and downloading the app you didn't mention, make sure you plan when you're going to have your lunch. It's very important.
And in fact, consider bringing something. Maybe not like a whole meal. You probably don't want to take up that much, but it's a good idea to keep your blood sugar up. You're going to be burning a lot of calories. Consider bringing some granola bars or a protein bar or something just in case you find yourself in desperate need of food. The food at the Javits Center is not great and very expensive. So at least something to hold you over until you get to lunch.
Make sure you activate your badge ahead of time, and you don't do it on your method of transportation to the Javits Center. The internet sometimes can be very spotty in New York when there's an event because everybody's using cell service, so kind of sometimes just walking around you could lose cell service. And
I feel like we regularly don't have any data when we're anywhere near the Javits Center during New York Comic Con.
Yeah, and it could be hard to get on free Wi-Fi in the area, so you don't want to be that person hanging around trying to activate your badge and not able to get in on time.
Look at the exhibitor exclusives. There are booths, tables of people who are selling things and giving out free stuff and getting to know the people in the area and trying to promote their business and all sorts of fun stuff. And oftentimes they will have things that are only available at this New York Comic Con, whatever year it is. And the exhibitor exclusives used to be, you just had to sort of figure out who was there and do a ton of sleuthing, be Sherlock Holmes and just go to the social media pages of all of the exhibitors, anything you thought sounded interesting to see if they had any exclusives that they were talking about. And then every now and then there would be sort of third-party websites that would collect all of this information and just sort of house it for you so you could go there. If you Google 2023 New York Comic Con exhibitor exclusives, the first thing that comes up is an official New York Comic Con page with all of the exclusives from all of the exhibitors, how much they cost, what they are, should have a picture of it, and it tells you where to find it as well. So where in the, in the show floor, what booth they're at.
It is very easy, both in New York and also at an event, to spend thousands and thousands of dollars if you go crazy. Yep. Especially if it's something that is so important to you. Like, a lot of the stuff at Comic-Con is stuff we grew up with, so it's very valuable to us. And we also have our child that we're trying to introduce to this stuff. So it's very easy to be like, ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that. Especially if you have a credit card. Like, it's very, very easy to just keep swiping and buy stuff. Like, every booth now takes cards. Artist Alley, a lot of people take cards. And if you're staying in the city multiple days of the convention, be it just 2 days or all the days, you're also going to have to plan food. You're going to have to plan if you want to do any after events. Some events, like, there's extra ticketed costs, or some people do events associated with Comic-Con that you can find, and you're going to spend money to do those. So just try to make sure you have a budget of, like, this is my buying fun things fund, this is my food fund, this is, if you're over 21, this is my alcohol fund. And also, you know, you got to plan transportation cost money, so make sure you have a transportation fund. The main stage and Empire Stage panels are reservation only, unless if you have VIP badge, then you're guaranteed access. So keep that in mind ahead of time. There's a lot of people that show up and they're like, ooh, I want to go to this main stage or this Empire Stage one. And you can sit on a queue line, which is set up for anyone who had a reservation. If they don't show up, then they'll add extra people. But you're not really guaranteed to get in, especially for something like super popular, like the one that we went to the other year with the people from Back to the Future. That was max capacity, so people on queue line didn't get in at all.
It was wild. We barely made it in. We were at the front of the line. And
we had reservations, and reservations barely made it in. Because
there were 2 other categories of, like, if you paid an extra amount that was like $500, you got to the very front of the line. You got into a first line, like a different line that goes in first. And then there was like a $300 extra fee if you wanted to get into the second line. And the third line was, quote, free, meaning that you had paid for your badge and gotten a reservation. I think there were people who reserved seats who couldn't get in.
Yep.
We were in the back of the house, and we were in the front of that line waiting to go in.
Yeah.
Wild.
So if you want to go to any of those, pay attention to social media. They announce when they do reservations. It's coming up, I think. Like, they're doing it weird this year. There's like a VIP reservation, and they broke up the Funko booth one from the panels. So I don't think it's till the 20th that general people will be able to reserve panels. But keep that in mind and plan that out. Map out around wherever you're staying, or if you're just going directly to the Javits Center, map out where pharmacies and clothing stores are, because you never know if you're going to have an emergency. There was one year that I got very sick, like, not like sick like throwing up, but sick like I had acid reflux. So we had to go to a pharmacy and get me some medicine. And there was another year that I got chafing on my leg, so we had to go to Macy's and get an anti-chafing pants thing that you wear under your pants. So, you know, like, things like when you're traveling, it's good to keep in mind of those things and be prepared. So that way you have fun and that you're not uncomfortable.
And on top of that as well, going off of, like, emergencies, have some sort of cab app on your phone, Uber, Lyft. I think even the New York City cab system has one now. Just to be prepared, just in case there's an emergency, because you don't want to pay $800 for an ambulance. But and honestly, a cab will get you to a hospital faster.
New York is a very accessible city, so a lot of people travel in just for the convention and either stay in a hotel, or they stay at a person's apartment that they know, or they might just travel in for the day. Like, when I used to live down the shore, when I would go to Comic-Con, I would usually just go one day, but I would just take the train and just travel in for the day. So with traveling into a city or anywhere, there's things that you got to keep in mind.
Leave early. However long you are willing to wait in line, get there that early plus 10 minutes. The New York City subway is hailed as being one of the greatest methods of public transportation in the entire world. And it can be, but it can also be I don't know how to say it without being super violent. It can be the most, just the thing that ruins your day, especially on the weekends. Weekends and late nights is when they do their maintenance, their track work. The trains will run like every 30 minutes sometimes. Like during rush hour on like a Monday morning, it's like every 5 minutes for the most part. Every now and then there's some sort of horrible catastrophe that causes everything to shut down. But for the most part, it runs pretty smoothly. On the weekends and nights, around like maybe 10 or 11, everything just grinds to a halt. So be prepared for that. There's going to be detours. Like if you didn't get a hotel like within walking distance of the Javits, if you can walk to the Javits Center, if you're like 10, 15 blocks away, maybe even 20 if you're going on the weekend, I would consider just walking. The trains can be just an absolute nightmare, and they just raised the prices to $2.90 a trip. So just keep that in mind. Leave extra early. Get there with plenty of time. It's going to be a lot easier for you. You would much rather stand in line for 30 more minutes than you were planning to, because you're going to get in 30 minutes earlier than you would have otherwise, than get there 30 minutes late and miss a bunch of stuff and still have to wait in this insane line that is now even longer because you got there 30 minutes late.
If you are going to use the subway as your method of travel, make sure you load up your Metro card ahead of time for the whole weekend or just the day that you're going to be traveling, because thousands of people come into the city for Comic-Con, so that means that's that many more people using the public transportation, including the buses and the subway, and you don't want to get stuck on a long line to fill up your Metro card and then miss your train and then miss getting to the convention when you need to get either online to get in or to get in and go to a panel line or your autograph session that you maybe paid hundreds of dollars for.
On that note as well, pro tip here, if you think you're going to beat the system by getting an unlimited pass, which they do have, but if you think you're going to beat the system by getting one unlimited pass for you and your 4 buddies, think again. You're not the first person to try this, and New York City is prepared for you. So there is like I think it's a 20 or 30 minute cooldown with unlimited passes. If you use your unlimited pass, it will not work again at that station for another 20 or 30 minutes. So you can't just, you and your 5 buddies share an unlimited pass. You can't just pay like $20 or whatever it is for an unlimited pass and then just pass it between the 5 of you. Do the math. See how much the unlimited passes cost. A single ride is $2.90. Remember, that's going to be doubled because you're going to have to go back home. So you're going to pay that twice per trip at least. And if you make an additional pit stop, it's going to be more than that. But look at how many rides you think you're going to take on the train during the day, and compare that to the unlimited passes and how much they cost, and amongst each person, and it's going to be different for how many people you have and all that good stuff. I personally think it's probably best to have 1 or 2 Metro cards that just have money on them, because you can just load $30 on it, and then every time you swipe it takes $2.90 out. So, but figure out the math and put extra on there. Maybe 50% more than you think. And, if you don't end up using it, give it to a New Yorker. They'll be very happy to receive it.
Yeah. Even
if you don't normally eat breakfast, you're going to be burning a lot of calories. It's going to be very hard to get food in there. Even if you're bringing some granola bars, if you skip breakfast, you're going to be eating them at like 10 in the morning, and then you're going to have nothing to eat for the rest of the day. Eat breakfast, and I even have here maybe even second breakfast.
So it's a straight walk from Penn Station to the Javits Center, pretty much no matter what avenue you take. But be very careful walking to the Javits Center because it is still New York, and it's New York during an event. There are things that get sold at Comic-Con that end up being worth a lot of money, and people know that. And they're looking for people that look like they're going to the convention carrying around bags because they think something in that bag might be worth something. Might be Funko Pops or something, so.
Might be a badge for the next day.
Yeah.
Those go for a lot of money.
Yeah, so you just be careful of that. Be mindful of your surrounding. It's the same thing if you travel anywhere that you don't live. Like, just keep an eye who's around you, keep an eye of where you are, try to stay where there's crowds, you don't want to go off into like a weird, I don't know, back alley alone or something.
Yeah, and on top of that, don't let that scare you. New York City is a very safe place. I have always said, basically since the creation and mass production and sale of cell phones, and there's cameras literally everywhere, and especially if you stay in mostly lit places, Times Square, 34th Street, even near the Javits, if there are people around, you're safe. You don't have to be worried. Obviously, don't leave your bag somewhere and go somewhere else. You have less to worry about with pickpockets and people trying to like just grab your bag and run. It doesn't really happen that much anymore. I mean, it does happen occasionally, but it's very, very rare. The things to look out for are like, somebody will run into you and intentionally drop a pair of glasses on the ground and be like, "You broke my glasses, give me money." Or one of our first dates, a guy ran into me and he dropped this bottle of booze on the ground and he was like, "Hey man, that bottle cost $60, you owe me." And I was like, "I don't have any money." And then he just left. And I thought it was super weird, so I Googled it, and it's like, oh no, that's a thing people do. Or, they try to sell you a CD. They'll be like, "Hey, here's a CD for free." And then they're like, "But you have to give me a tip now." And there's even those like fake Buddhist monks who are like, "We're going to put your name in this book and give you these beads and pray for you for enlightenment. Anyway, where's my money?" And you don't have to give anyone anything. If anybody hands you anything, don't accept it. If you're in the Javits Center, fine, go to town. If someone's handing you something, you can take whatever you want. Outside of the Javits, even right out on the front door, if someone tries to hand you something, say no thank you and keep moving. Here's another thing that you can use instead of walking and instead of the subway. City Bike is there. City Bike, you pay a small amount. I think it's about the same amount of money. Actually, it's probably the same amount of money. It used to be the same amount of money as the train. It was like $2.50, but now the train costs more money. So it's probably cheaper now. And it's a bike. You can look it up in the app. You download the City Bike app, and it shows you where all the stations are and how many bikes they have. And you can look to see where the nearest bike is for you. Go down there. You say, "I'm going to take this bike." They give you a code. You put in the code. You take the bike. And then you can look up where the nearest bike station is to the Javits and see how many openings they have. And if there's an opening there and you feel confident that you can make it in time before someone else grabs it, you can ride your bike over there and lock it in place. And it's a fast, reliable way to get places. The subway can shut down, it can stop, people can hold the doors. It can be so full that people are trying to cram in and it gets delayed very quickly. There can be track maintenance, there can be track fires that cause delays and all sorts of horrible things. But these bikes, you got to be careful because people are out to get you when you're on a bike. Pedestrians are not looking both ways. They will walk into the bike lane. You've got a little bell. Just keep ringing it the whole way. And try not to go too fast. Don't hit anybody. And watch out for cars. And maybe wear a helmet if you're going to do that. Maybe bring a helmet. It's not the safest method of transportation, but it is the fastest in New York City, I promise you. If you're not like in Brooklyn somewhere, if you're like within 40 blocks of the Javits, City Bike's going to be your best friend.
I think it's also through Lyft app too.
Yeah, you can get it through Lyft too.
If you are riding NJ Transit into the city for Comic-Con, be mindful of the train schedule.
Ugh.
So if your stop that you're originating at is an express stop, you're not going to really have a hardship, but if you're on a local stop, like we live off a local stop now, the trains are very inconsistent. It's like on the weekends, we can get an 11 o'clock hour train, and then the next one is a 2 o'clock hour train going into the city. So you have to be very mindful of that. And the same thing is with the return. NJ Transit cuts off at 1 a.m. and then you're stuck on the island until I think it's like 5 or 6 in the morning. So if you miss that train because you decided to go out after the convention with your friends,
you're hanging out for a while.
Yeah.
Find a 24-hour diner and just try to stay awake.
Or you can pay like $100-something for Lyft or Uber out of Manhattan.
Or pay $300 for a hotel somewhere.
Yeah, so just be very mindful of that. It's not like the subway or path that run 24/7.
And you can download the New Jersey Transit app. It has all the schedules and everything.
The day of, like, you're at the convention, you're having fun and all that. Like, you know, the thing that you're going for.
Panels, Artist Alley, Show Floor, Gaming Zone. These are the 4 main areas. There's also, like, the autograph area, but I'm not talking about that. These are the main areas of the Javits for the purposes of New York Comic Con. Know where they are. A lot of this is sort of a thing to do before you get there, but it's something you can do to make sure that once you're there, things go smoothly. You have 4 days, maybe. Like at most, you might have 1 or 2 or 3 days, but at most you have 4 days to do all the stuff you want to do. A lot of time is wasted trying to figure out where you're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Look up where all these areas are. And you can find like Javits Center floor layouts, like maps that have like the different floors, and it shows you where everything is. So like the gaming zone is going to be in Hall 1E. You can literally just look up Javits floor layout or something, and the first image that comes up is like a whole thing that it's like an exploded view of the entire Javits Center. It says like, here's Hall 1E right here, and you know that the gaming zone is going to be right there. So if you have a tabletop RPG that's going on at 1 o'clock on Thursday, you know exactly how to get there from where you're going to be, from the panel you're going to be at before, because you also know where the panel is, because you looked that up already. And you're going to save a lot of time going between these places and have a lot more time for fun.
And also, there are people working the event everywhere, and there's maps, so don't be afraid to ask questions on that if you get lost, because the Javits Center, while it can be a very simple layout, when you have a lot of people and a lot of stuff, you can get turned around and be very confused.
It's huge.
Yeah, and since they opened up the Empire Wing, like, it got even bigger.
And if you don't find somebody who works there, honestly, the people at New York Comic Con are generally pretty friendly, and most of them have been going for 10, 15, 20 years. Ask one of them. Just say, hey, do you know where this is? And they might say no, but maybe they'll be like, yeah, down the hall and to the right.
They have Wi-Fi set up for the convention that is free access, so when you get to the convention center, make sure you connect to that, because a lot of places you will not have cellular data access, and if you're trying to like stay in contact with your friends that are there, or like sometimes like the app gets weird. I don't think like it has a really good offline mode. You want to be connected to Wi-Fi, you know? So make sure you connect that right away. Like literally, I think they have a banner that they put up if you just look up that says the Wi-Fi password. Judge the popularity of the panel for determining how early you have to get online. Because if it's something like, I know David Tennant and Chris Evans are doing like their own panels.
Ewan McGregor, I think, too.
Those are going to be like people lining up many hours in advance. So.
Yeah, and the Critical Role is another one that people are just like freaking out about.
People who dress up, it's called cosplay. They want you to take their pictures. Just ask them. People do not dress up as characters, especially like the ones that are like super elaborate, and not want attention. Those are people that want attention. They're like peacocks with fancy feathers. But be respectful. It is a person. It's not like a paid professional. They're there to have fun. And just ask. And the really cool thing, if you ask, a lot of the times they rehearse poses they do for the photos. I was
gonna say, you're gonna get a much better picture. Like, we went, when you made the Mr. Miracle costume for me, I had props and stuff. So if I was just walking around and people were taking my photo, I had the props away, I had like the collar down and stuff. When people came over and were like, hey, can I get a picture? Collar gets popped up and it's like higher than my head, and I have these discs and stuff and I can take a pose. It's a much better photo than just like trying to snap a picture of somebody walking around with like a bag in their hand.
Yeah, and sometimes like there's some of them that like coordinate their costumes. Like you might have like the Avengers cast or something, and they'll all pose together, and it's really cool. It's really fun. Just be respectful.
Check your emails for updates from New York Comic Con while you're at the convention. I think it was last year or maybe 2 years ago. We were planning on going to this like big movie panel, but we were kind of unsure about it. It was a David Harbour thing. We really like him, and we were going to do it. And then we got this email notification that there was a surprise panel because this actor just happened to be in the area and decided that they wanted to do it. And we got to see Mason Alexander Park basically do like a little cabaret for us, sing songs and stuff in the middle of the night in this like little panel room with a piano player. And it was just like this actor that we had seen in the show Sandman, and like 100 people sitting in chairs singing along to these songs, to David Bowie songs and like Rolling Stone songs and stuff, and it was a lot of fun.
With checking your email, make sure you have the notifications set so that way you can see when you get emails, because they do add stuff through the weekend of the convention that they don't have in like the ahead of time programming. So like, for instance, the one year we went when the convention started back up after COVID, they had like a surprise screening of Dune they set up, and they sent out an email, and it was like, there's so many seats, because I think it was at the AMC on 34th, and you sign up and you got to see Dune for free ahead of time. So there's a lot of stuff like that. I think it was last year's Showtime had like a like boozy thing set up for Yellow Jackets.
Oh yeah.
That was just like you had to like just like see it on social media and sign up to go.
We waited in line for like 2 hours or something.
Yeah, we waited on like a queue line.
God.
Trying to get in. But like stuff like that through the weekend pops up. So be very active on social media and have your email like notifications set up. Follow all of the entertainment channels that you can and celebrities that are going.
Have your notifications in the app as well turned on for the New York Comic Con app.
Yeah, and look in like the hashtag to see like what's being added. Especially being a member of the 21 plus category. After the convention is done, the convention isn't necessarily over. Comic-Con has things that goes on after hours, and there's also like affiliated with Comic-Con events that happen at like random bars and stuff throughout the city. And then also just like celebrities and stuff that are going, just like they'll be like, hey, I'm gonna be at this bar doing a thing, come. Like, I think there was like some podcast we saw is going to be recording an episode at a bar or something that we could go to if we really wanted to. Tons of stuff like that after hours. Plus, also, it's New York, so there's just like nightlife in every corner, a person throwing up in every trash can, you know.
You'll be lucky if it's not you. There's plenty to do in New York. Like, so first thing, I guess, is just like straight up outside of New York Comic Con, just like look up fun stuff to do in New York at night. Like, there's dance clubs if you're into that sort of thing. There's cool bars. There's fancy dining. Parks. I think most of the parks close after sundown, but, you know, have some fun. Wander around. Also, like, as long as you're staying in well-lit, crowded areas, Times Square, 34th Street, Bryant Park, Union Square, walk around. Have some fun. Get you know, again, you're 21 and older, get a little drunk and get a little sloppy and stumble around. You're going to upset a lot of people. That's okay. It's not a crime.
The subway will get you to pretty much any borough that you want to go to.
Not Staten Island. But, well, yeah, any that you want to go to.
So, when the convention is done, like, and especially if you're going with, like, a group of people, or, like, in my case, I'm going with the person I'm dating, go out and have fun and just do a New York thing. There are bars around the Javits Center that, like, try to, like, get into it, and, like, they'll have, like, a Comic-Con drink, or, like, their little sign will be, like, about Comic-Con. But also, like, a lot of the people that go to Comic-Con that are staying in the city go out to bars, and some of them go dressed up, which is really fun.
This is another thing to add on to that that's sort of a cross-category note in general, which is that there's nothing near the Javits Center. Nothing. The nearest place for food is like 2 avenue blocks away, which doesn't sound like a lot if you don't know New York, but avenue blocks are like a 10-minute walk each. So just be prepared for that. The bars, all that stuff, you're going to have to walk a ways, and maybe even walk a ways to a subway station, and then take a subway station. Don't ride City Bike if you're drunk. If you've been drinking, don't ride City Bike. Take the train, take a car. Don't drive a car. Get a car. that someone else is driving. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
The app is going to have, like, all the things that are officially affiliated with New York City Comic Con. They should be in there. There should be things that are like, this late night thing. They do karaoke in the Javits at like 11 o'clock at night or something, you know? So like there's stuff that'll be in the panel section, but there's other stuff as well. They have like an after hours nightlife section as well. So like they'll have all of their, you know, I remember there was one time like Johnny Walker did like a Game of Thrones thing that was all through them as well. That was all like, you know, on the level as part of New York City Comic Con in association with Reed Pop. You know, there are bars that are just like, hey, Comic Con's here and we're going to have some fun. But like, there are things that are officially associated with New York Comic Con, and you know that you'll be safe there. You know there will be a lot of people there because everybody knows that it's happening because it's been listed in the app and on the website. So that's usually a safe bet.
So this is really important, especially if you're like us, where you're in the over 30 club with a child. You're not lame if you want to just go back to your hotel and go to sleep.
A little lame.
If you are getting up at like 6 in the morning, going into the city, having breakfast, doing the convention all day, and then I think like the last thing is like 10 o'clock that closes or something like that.
Well, like the last panel?
Well, yeah, last panel, because there are times, and it's like on the back of the badges too, the Artist Alley closes at a time and the show floor closes at a time, but panels go on beyond that.
Oh, I see.
So I think the year that, and sometimes like there are like special things that the panels go past the posted time. Like we went to the Ghostbusters panel, I think it was 2021, and they showed the movie and we didn't know that. And it went beyond the time that was on the record of like how long the panel is gonna go. So we got done at like midnight, I think it was.
It was even later. It started at 9 something. It was supposed to be 1 hour long.
Yeah.
It was just going to be a discussion with the cast and the director. They did 30 to 40 minutes of discussion with the cast and the director, and then they showed the movie, the like 2.5 hour long movie.
Yeah, which was insane. You'll have a full day, so like no one's gonna like blame you if you're like, you know what? I really just I gotta go crash. I gotta sleep. If alcohol isn't your thing, go have a nice dinner. There are diners that are open 24/7 that are very good. One of them is the TikTok Diner. It's not too far away from the Javits Center.
34th and 8th, I think.
And you, at any time of the night in New York, will be able to find food that is pretty good. There's a lot of pizza. There's a lot of diners.
Taco Bell will be open. There's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of drunk people as well, so just stay out of people's way while you're walking down the sidewalk.
But if you don't want to like sit at a restaurant and eat, you can get food delivered to your hotel room.
It's true, yeah.
And on that note, that's our kind of guide to prepare for your Comic-Con weekend. So we hope this helps. And we're very excited for Comic-Con. And if you're going, please let me know, because that'd be really cool to meet someone else who's going other than this lame head.
I do have a lame head.
Yeah, I love you though.
I love you.
That's the video. Thank you for watching. If this video is useful to you, please give it a thumbs up. That is really helpful and really cool. If there's anything you want to say, please leave it in the comments below. I love talking and meeting people. And consider subscribing for other weird nerd content, or normally I do stuff on design because I'm a designer, but if you're coming to Comic-Con, I hope you have a great time, and I hope some of this info helps you out.
And I hope you remember to wear deodorant.
Yeah. All right, bye!